Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we're Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're going to be talking about Unboxed. But before we do, we want to remind you to subscribe so you can see all of our videos coming up. We have a lot of awesome stuff planned for this year, so you definitely want to make sure to subscribe. All right, Unboxed is designed by Jordan Sorensen and is published by WizKids.
All right, have you ever heard of the game of Senate? No, not the American political entity.
Isn't that the that like Egyptian game that we don't know how to play?
That's exactly what it is. So there's this game that
it.
archaeologists have discovered. They found when they were excavating a site in Egypt, all these board game components essentially. And the problem is the rules have been lost over time. So they've had to kind of figure out, using context clues and stories about the game, things like that, to figure out how to play, so that way they can kind of recreate the game essentially and figure out what that looked like in those times. So that's kind of exactly what we're doing in this game. What's happening is we are intern archaeologists. We have stumbled upon all these series of components, and we are trying to figure out what the rules of these games are. So you're literally kind of creating games out of various stages of components. And then you get a chance to play those games if you want to. But the game itself is about creating the games, designing the games with the design in mind. There's 10 different kind of missions, or whatever you want to call them, in this box. Yeah. And a lot of them kind of overlap and use some of the same materials. Normally, I would give a kind of a how to play section of the video, give you guys kind of an overview of what's going on. I'm not going to do that for this video for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's spoilers. That's the kind of the main reason, right? It's supposed to be an adventure. You're supposed to be able to uncover and unbox all these different things that are in the
knee slapper.
that are inside the box, so that you can kind of work through the cases. There's all these different clues, all these different things that you're going to be working through. So we don't want to give you any kind of hints. So you can kind of discover that all on your own. But the main core of it is you are given us a set of components. You are given a light little paragraph worth of description, and there might be some clues along the way that you're kind of given to say how you might figure out this game. And then you're going to kind of try to figure out how to make this game work. And then you're going to be given a series of questions. It might say like, okay, so what do you think the setup of the game was? What was the win condition? When was the game end triggered?
Yeah.
Things like that. You're going to be given all these questions that you kind of have to figure out, and that's how you ultimately score your points, is by figuring out how they intended you to build the game out of the components that they gave you, along with their clues.
I will have to say, when you first open up the book, the first page, it's just all these random numbers, and then all these clues. You don't really know those are clues at first, and then when you turn the page and you start the first one, you're like, oh my gosh, those are the clues. But it is okay if you looked at that and read that, because all the numbers are in mismatched order. So the first one will have like questions 9, 1, 27, and 30. So like, and then if you needed the clues, you could go back to that. So it's okay that when you first open that, you're just like, what's all this stuff here, until you turn to the next one, because they don't do it in order of 1, 2, 3, 4. They do it randomly, so that way you don't feel like you're cheating if you need those clues. You don't have to use the clues if you want to get all of the points, if you think you can like figure it out, but if you use the clues, you do get deducted in your final score.
So each kind of mission, there's 10 different games that you'll be designing. Each one of them has a set of components that it gives you in the rule book. And basically what's going to happen is you pluck those contents out of the box, whether it's a series of tokens or chips or cards or whatever the case is, and you're designing that. But the thing is, each one has its own standalone mission. So on mission 1, you might use some little wooden bits, and then on mission 5, you might use the same wooden bits again, or whatever the case is. So, but then also at the same time, there's some cards that are only going to be used for specific games. So I kind of like that you were recycling some of the ingredients and recycling some of the components, while simultaneously having some cards and some things that were just specific to individual games that you were designing. And in that way, they were kind of able to give you a lot of variety while still maintaining a fewer components to work with, which I think is reasonable, because some of those things we see in a lot of games. We see meeples in a lot of games. We see dice in a lot of games. So why not just reuse them when you're making these kinds of games? I thought that was a clever way to minimize the amount of stuff in the box.
If you are playing this game just to solve the game and not to play the game that you solved. So if you're just trying to figure out if you can figure it out, if you got everything right, and then moving on to the next one, if you're not playing each game every time you figure out how to play it, it actually plays fairly quick. I was kind of surprised at that. I thought it was going to be a much bigger time frame for us to play through this, and it wasn't. We actually did it very quickly because we weren't playing each individual game after we had like discovered it. We were just seeing if we had discovered it, and then we were able to move on.
If you guys have been watching our channel at all, you might know that, or remember that I kind of dabble in amateur board game design, right? I really like making new games and playtesting them and having fun with that, with some hopes of eventually maybe getting those games published or whatever the case is. But this kind of is like that, right? You get a chance to kind of figure out and kind of tickle that part of your brain about that gives you that game design fever, right? You get a chance to look at all these components, get some clues, and kind of figure out how to put things together in almost a borderline logic puzzle to kind of get things together in a way that makes a cohesive game. And that's I really love to make that challenge as a game designer. But then this kind of gives you that in a baby steps to get to that point, right? So I think that was a kind of an interesting way to get your brain thinking about design choices.
Okay.
Whoa, you're geared up for something big there.
I am geared up for something big. If you've been following our channel at all, you know one of the things I hate in games is when the game asks a lot of me. I like to just play the game. I hate those games that I think are going to be dungeon crawlers, but they're really like massed RPGs. Like, I didn't want that. I just want to play the game. It's why I don't like a lot of party games, is because a lot of party games require a lot of me, and I just want to play the game. And that's...
Have you, like, come up with something?
Yes, you have to come up with something. I just don't like that. I just want to play the game. And I did not want to have to figure out how to play your game. I wanted you to tell me how to play your game. And the fact that the game was figuring out how to play the game was not a fan. I did not enjoy this. I was... Like, the first one was kind of interesting and unique, and then we were going on, and I'm like, I'd rather play a game. Like, instead of figuring out how to play a game, which is the game, I'd rather just play a game. Like, this is not something that I would prefer to do. I did not enjoy this at all. It was not fun for me. I don't want to be ridiculously mean, so I'm going to cut myself off right here, but this was definitely not for me. Hard pass.
All right, so I don't have quite the exact same passion that Bethany has of her feelings about this game. That being said, I have some thoughts, right? This is supposed to be like almost a logic puzzle, right? You are given a series of inputs, and then you need to come up with an output. And in a logic puzzle, there's only one solution that can come as a result of all these inputs go through this machine. You have one output that is the perfect, correct solution.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is not the case here. It's open-ended, and I don't like that. I don't like that there's any kind of objectivity, there's any kind of like we can interject our own thoughts into that. The rulebook even kind of talks about how you might come up, we give you a set of components, we give you our little clues that we kind of guide you along, but if you come up with something different than what we had originally planned, that's fantastic. Your game might even be better than what we came up with.
It's a variant.
That's great. Great job. You did it. You made your own thing. I don't want that. I want a pure logic puzzle. I want to, if I have to design a game, I'm going to design a game on my own time as a designer, not take what you've given me, given some weird, constraints, and then come up with something. I mean, it's a cool puzzle idea, right? But it's not a pure logic, and I think that's what you need for something like this. You need to have a result. You need to have something that makes sense. So if you are into those cool puzzles, I think it's going to tickle your brain a little bit. My big problem is, besides that, having kind of open-ended multiple solutions, besides that, my question is, who's the audience for this game, right? I think that if people are just regular gamers, they're not going to want to, like Bethany, have to have the stress of figuring out a game before being able to play a game.
Yeah.
I think if you're a designer, an amateur designer like myself, I think that you'd rather spend your time creatively working on your own stuff. So that leaves the question of who is this game for? Who's the intended audience? So, I mean, if you like those kind of cooperative, logic-ish puzzles, if you are kind of interested in game design, but like you're not a game designer, you kind of like the idea. If you like maybe like a campaign style game, or like the games that kind of have a kind of build off of each other and get harder as the game goes on.
That Venn diagram, Ryan, is so tiny. That's like saying if you like tea at 2:30 when it's raining outside, it has to be mint tea cooled for exactly 3 minutes with crumpets, then this game's for you. Like, that's so, if you like this and you see that Venn diagram right there? There's not a lot of people there.
Okay, listen, that's a fair point.
2:30 tea.
It's a fair point, but if you happen to be in all that in all those Venn diagrams, if all those things sound interesting to you, first of all, enjoy your crumpet. Second of all, enjoy Unboxed. But for everyone else, we'll try the next one.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.
You guys, thanks so much for watching. This game was provided to us by a publisher in exchange for a fair and honest review.
And if you want to see more stuff, check out over here to see something we think you might like.
And over here, we think that YouTube has picked out a great video for you you're going to love. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.